Hello, today is the 31st of March 2012. This is more of a rant type of a video, as I'm going to be talking mainly about Fibonacci mathematical calculations, the Mayan calendar, but really ranting, but not getting upset, but very confused, and that's what I really need to talk about. This is a chart for silver, which we're going to be referring to, but not right now. I'm using exponential Fibonacci. I'm the only person that I know of that uses this. Now, I have seen one software, at least a photo image of one, that was able to calculate exponential Fibonacci. I don't know what the software was, but you're hard-pressed to find any software program where if you plot in this low, you plot in this high, you will get these exact two levels. Extremely hard-pressed. So let's get started. I'm going to be going over some of the comments on my previous video for the case of $234 silver, but before I do, this is a Fibonacci calculator. I have a high for the range of 5,000. I have a low on the range of 1. Therefore, 50% would be 2,500. Really. 50% of the movement would be 2,500. That's a pretty large percentage gain. To gain 2,499 basis points on 1. And then going the second half, you only need to double. You'll see you have to double like a bazillion times. Well, not that many. But you have to double oftentimes to get to 5,000 or to 2,500, but only once to do the second half. That's almost like saying that, for example, let's assume that you have $1 to work with, and you got to get the account to 5,000. That the odds are likely that halfway through your journey you'll get to 2,500. No, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because when you started making bets with your dollar account, you're making 5-cent bets and 10-cent bets and 2-cent bets. Whereas when you're at 2,500, you're making $20 bets and $30 bets and $40 bets. So when they say the first million is easier to hit than the second million, that's the reason why. Now, it's very easy for these things to calculate this like perfectly, but they don't seem to do it. See, when I was looking at this chart, I realized that it's always the same for Fibonacci retracement. On the movements of, in pixels even, from this low to this high. If this is pixel number 0 and this is pixel number 100, or 1,000 we'll say, then pixel 382 is here and pixel 618 is here. So I figured I can do some calculations on a spreadsheet, which is pretty easy. I'll just take a low, and we'll just take the low, the 1774 low that we have in here, and we'll take a high of 4981. Now, if we move this 1,000 rows, what's the calculation or rate of ascension that I would need to know? Well, the rate of ascension, I know this really well because this is the same sort of mathematics that I use in the Mayan calendar when I talk about the rate of ascension of time. I use calculations even a little more advanced than this, but in the very similar kind of function. You take the highest level divided by the lowest level, and you put it to the power of how many cycles you're going to run. And we're going to run 1,000 cycles. This will give us the rate of ascension, 1.001, and that happens to be the number. So what we'll do in here, we'll put in the number 1, and in here we'll put in the low. And all we need to do is multiply the rate of ascension, or rate the original number, multiply the rate of ascension. And there we go. Now in this program, when I'm doing copying and pasting, I need to put dollar signs in here so that it always multiplies the column of G1. And here I need to give myself a counter. I'm just going to add that number plus 1. And if I copy this all the way down, when this hits 100, when this number A hits 1,000, then B should equal 4981. So let's just see how well that is. There's 1,000 here, and that's 4981 right in here. So the mathematics in this case would work out. And I know at the 61.8 I would have it, that this would be the 61.8% retracement, which is 3358. And then I've talked about the 26 and a third at the 38.2. There's a 38.2, and there's a 26 and 1/3. So the calculations seem to have worked really, really well, to say the least. So if I go to any of these, let me just now go back to the search. If we go to any of these, and I've clicked on them all, any of these calculators, they're all going to be the same. Well, this one didn't even have a calculator actually, but all the calculators that I went to were the exact same. So now if I type in Fibonacci retracement formula, say you were just wanting to get the formula from it, normally when you do a Google search, you're going to find the answer. So I'll just go right to the number 1 page that we find. 3 most used Fibonacci retracement levels are 38.2%, 50%, and 61.8%. Now that's true, but I don't know why those would be the 3 most used. The 3 most Fibonacci extension levels are, once again, I don't know why these ones are used again, but see, they talk about the calculation, and this isn't the page I want to see. Now you take the high, you subtract the low, and you multiply it by the percentage, and you add the low again. But this page is almost made me sick when I read it. Almost. The Fibonacci retracement patterns can be useful for swing traders to identify reversals on a stock chart. On this page, we will look at the Fibonacci sequence and show some examples of how you can identify this pattern. Fibonacci numbers were developed by Mr. Leonardo Fibonacci, and it is simply a series of numbers that when you add up the previous 2 numbers, you can come up with the next number in the sequence. Here's an example. Now, I have a little tiny problem with this example because there's no 1, and there's not 2 ones, because it starts with 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, and so on. See how when you add 1 and 2 you get 3. Well, that's just talking about this. So here they talk about how oftentimes Fibonacci retracements often occur at 3 levels. See, you're wrong here. This is wrong in my opinion, and this is why it's a rant. I'm going through what I have figured out from my experience, and they say it's 38.2%, 50%, and 61.8%. I gotta say that's wrong. For the Fibonacci sequence, this is the percentage, which is 61.8, and even 0.33 just to get some additional numbers. Now if I multiply this number again, then that's where we can get 38.2%. If we multiply this number again by 61.8%, then we get 23.6, which is a number that I've used quite frequently. I can take the inverted of this, or 1 subtract this, and get 76.4, which is the opposite of the 23.6, and I can also take this number again, multiply by 61, which gives me the 14.6. The opposite of that is the 85.4, and so on and so on. But you're not going to get anyone talking about that. I wish I could know why, but I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. So therefore, they talk about drawing the fib guard, and I don't know, they just can't seem to get it. Now this is really, really interesting here where it says Fibonacci ebook. If you want to get into really, oh man, I don't know what this word says. Oh man, what's it say? Okay, you can't see it, but you can double click for definition. Is it private or advanced? Advanced. I'm trying to figure out what that... I didn't think there was such a thing as advanced Fibonacci analysis, because if there was, then the type of stuff that I talk about would be on the internet. Oh man, this is confusing. Anyway, and then you may want to check out this Fibonacci ebook. It was written by Wayne Gorman, who has 25 years experience in trading, forecasting, and portfolio management. This 90-page ebook goes into detail on Fibonacci time relationships, retracements, and here's the deal. I'm saying there's about a 99.8 to 99.9% chance that the exponential Fibonacci is not calculated. Now, I don't even think I'm going to be able to take a look at it because they're probably going to try to sell it. And there you go, $129. Yeah, I could be making books like this and trying to make all these extra fiat currency debt notes, but quite frankly, to me, I just don't think that would be a productive thing to do. I really would like to educate people as much as I can, which is why I enjoy doing this, but it kind of makes me wonder why, when I do research for this Fibonacci retracement, why not a single person in this world, other than myself, actually uses this type of information. It's fairly confusing, to say the least. Anyway, let's move on to some of these comments, because I think that a few of them are quite important, which really gets into the whole Mayan calendar kind of deal that I was talking about at the start of this video, I should say. At what price would you sell? And this is pretty much the answer right here. Probably at a price where the US dollar does not exist. Now, this is what I like about the internet right now, is that you can double click on a word and then you get the definition of it. Okay, well, give me the definition. It's not working. Okay, a lot of times if you double click on words, you'll get, there you go, crash definition, to break violently and noisily. I actually like that part of the internet, but I'm going off of subject here. Now, the reason, of course, why it's important when it doesn't exist. How do you divide a number when you divide something that exists by something that doesn't exist? What is your answer going to be? Well, let's just give you a number that exists. 76. I don't care. Any number that's not 0, it doesn't exist. Any number that's 0 does not exist. Div 0. You can't divide by 0. So when people talk about how useless these charts are going to become in that section, I have to think that's 100% accurate. So I can say, oh, 234.50, but that might be idiotic to sell at that level, because you can turn your silver in for 230, and then next thing you know, you get all these pieces of paper that have the possibility of getting nothing back in return. And I say this because I would figure that those who can at least manage to get a 70% mark in grade 12 and beyond statistics to be able to understand why interest is 100% guaranteed within the current economic model, and with that being said, 100% to cause massive suffering in this world. This is basic information. This is not majorly advanced. We're not trying to calculate how many centimeters we are away from the sun on any particular given day. It's not that hard. But it seems to be, because people just cannot get it. And I wish they could, but they can't. So there's really one comment in here that I really have to really wonder about, and that is, you're a clever guy. Well, I would like to figure out why it is that 90x%, which is close to 99% of the entire world, is so brain dead when it comes to these basic things on the economic model. Why? Like I said, interest 100% guaranteed to cause the suffering. 100% guaranteed. As far as the cycles were concerned, I'm figuring the next super high in silver will be 2015. It looks like roughly 3-year cycles before a huge major correction again. That's why in this video I said a large ballpark range, and I was like saying like 8 to like 60, 70, 80, and even at 8 I'm thinking, well, it could mathematically happen in 3, 4, 5. It's rare, but it's still possible. So it's almost impossible to determine, but the Mayan calendar is really the X factor, and I'm going to be moving in towards that, because right here, for example, to everyone watching these videos, he predicted over $100 silver a year ago, just saying. I technically didn't predict $100 silver a year ago, even though this would be the time frame it would end, because I said really into the first third of 2012. But I said it was likely. There's a difference. Likely means greater than 50%. And the big reason for this was because of the Mayan calendar. Now here's the kicker about this. If you have any knowledge, not knowledge, that's different. That's different. If you have any interest, that's the word I'm looking for. If you have any interest in either the Mayan calendar being correct or incorrect, then obviously that would mean you do research. Therefore, you would have already went over my Mayan calendar series video that I'd done over 1,000 days ago, or around 1,000 days ago. And then you would go through my information and then verify the cycles. And then verify the time. Time as far as increase in time, which is how I got this idea. This is sort of similar to the calculations that I use in calculating time, because the thing about time is this. Let's just assume that over the first week, let's even do second. No, let's do week. The first week of consciousness. No, let's do day. In the first day, there's, say, 25 different units that would be that could be done on this planet. But every single day that we move further will be slightly greater. So let's just take this number and multiply a very small percentage. Well, day number 2, we have this here. We have 25 different units. Now, after an extremely amount of days, it's now 25.03. Meaning, on the first day, there was 25 different units that were being done. Yet, look at how this number keeps going higher. That's sort of like how time moves. You have more and more stuff happens in less and less amount of time. This is exponential growth, which seems extremely clear is happening within this planet. Now, here's the kicker. This cannot go on forever. It's impossible. And the reason why it's impossible is because at some point, this would just pretty much explode within itself, which is where December 21st, 2012 comes into play. Now, the person whom talked about these different cycles was Dr. Carl Kalaman. And if we look at the, he had October 28th, 2011 to be at the end of that date. Now, what I knew, and I still know today from the start of 2011, was that, okay, so Dr. Carl Kalaman says October 28th, 2011. Now, if you look back at any of my older Mayan calendar videos, you would have heard me state that I was having to question Mr. Kalaman's work on math, and here's why. Because he talks about 7 days and 6 nights, or 13 different cycles. No, I worked with the same 13 cycles, but what he said was that each of the 9 cycles they have is 20 times faster, and each of the 9 cycles has the 13 periods, 7 days and 6 nights. But what he did was he had the exact same amount of days in each cycle, even though time speeds up, which made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I still had to give some precedence to 2011 being the end of the Mayan calendar. Now we got this date of December 21st, 2012. How much precedence am I going to give December 21st on a scientific level using the action versus reaction principles, using the periodic table of elements, and all of those things that represents how this world comes into play? What's the odds that December 21st, 2012 is the day in which the Mayan calendar comes to an end? So to say that the cycle is going to take 3 years or 7 years or 3 months or 9 months or whatever is impossible for me to state because I don't know when it ends. Now, looking at the cycles of what's to come into play within the cycles of consciousness, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's working out pretty nicely. Question is time increasing on a moment-by-moment basis? Again, the answer to that would be yes. Yes, it is. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. It was pretty much mainly a rant, to say the least. But it really is kind of, I'm trying to figure out the word that I'm using. Frustrating is a simple one, I guess. To why it is that, I don't care too much that people can't get Fibonacci retracement because only a very small percentage of the people actually use it. So it's not like it's a big deal, but I figure within the community of traders that just maybe some of them would actually get it right. But no, they don't. It is kind of frustrating that people can't figure out that fiat currency that is backed by nothing is guaranteed to cause major suffering because of interest.